So I just want to start with, I put into the chat actually a little VHS tape that I see Brendan has collected, and just how long UC Boulder has been involved at this intersection of helping Native folks build these skill sets and sharing about geoscience has been a long time. That's 1996. So just want to give a big shout out to everyone who's presented ahead of us, and also to CU Boulder for just convening us. I've so enjoyed getting to meet so many of you and make connections at other TCUs that I did not have connections at before. So just want to give everybody a shout out there. I'm going to invite Stephanie to go ahead and drop our story map into the chat so that you can follow along at your at the speed. And I'm also putting our slides in the chat so that you can check that out too in case we're moving too quickly. But my name is Alex Kimball Williams. I am based at Haskell Indian Nations University, and I am one of the two faculty selected at Haskell, along with Dr. Stephanie Willis. And the two students that we worked with are Sean Bird and Jesse Resendez. We created not only maps, but we realized, well, where are these maps going to go? How can we work together? How can we share these things? And so we did create a story map. And when you, this is all hyperlinked as well. But we created a story map to kind of fill a gap that was needed to create a centralized, accessible, and updated space for storing geography and environmental science research happening at Haskell. And so we're going to show you some slides from that. We also created maps with these newfound coding skills that we gained that also help to provide baseline data for existing and current research happening here at the campus, as well as future research projects that might develop either at Haskell or at other places. This is the tabs that we had. We kind of organized it this way. We're definitely open for critique and ideas around better tab names. But our purpose is basically to fill this gap that we noticed that there's a lot of information about Haskell in the wetlands. But since a highway was constructed about 10 years ago, there was a little dip in some of the centralization of this information. And we also noticed that there could be some more maps to kind of support the research projects that we knew were happening around the campus. Just a quick Haskell wetlands history. Haskell did start as a boarding school and then became a technical school, a junior college, and then finally a university only in 1993. And the year prior to that, in 1992, the medicine wheel was constructed at the edge of the wetlands, which is on the south edge of Haskell campus. These wetlands have been important for tribes locally and even currently for a very long time. And the students will do research projects out there. And so in our work, we ended up collecting historical maps, compiling those, and also maybe some important documents about kind of the change in ownership of the land, the parcels that we do include in our maps that you'll see. And then we also collected a couple of just the more artistically kind of social science leaning exhibitions that have been done about Haskell and about the wetlands. And so if you go to our story map, you'll get to see the timeline of Haskell history, to kind of inform you about where we're at. But the South Lawrence Traffic Way was a highway that was constructed that bisects the wetlands, which you'll see here in the circle is roughly where the wetlands exist. They're a little bit more expansive into the south here. Up is north, down is south. Or wait, yes, I got turned around. But you'll see this highway was constructed and it was highly protested. There's been a lot of work done to preserve these wetlands since the highway was constructed, despite it being there. However, unfortunately, expansions continue. And so there's a lot of work being done here to kind of showcase the quality of the wetlands, how many species numbers, how many species are there. And so there's a lot of work happening to help preserve these wetlands. And so again, up here, you'll see the Haskell campus. And then as we move south, you get into the wetlands and prairie ecosystems. So yeah, I'm going to hand it off to Sean to talk more about this.
Yeah, thank you so much, Alex. So the data that myself and others have been able to collect via our trail camera system we've been able to conduct spatial analysis of the wetland ecology in the area using that method to provide a living reference and a living database that can be cited when considering further encroachments to the environment and habitat fragmentation that happens. And with the evidence that I've collected, I've been able to provide evidence of the species distribution and the habitat use in the area, despite the continual habitat fragmentation that happens with the infrastructure. Yeah, and there is some videos that I've captured featured in our story map as well.
That's a cute otter.
This video actually features a beaver in the foreground and then an otter in the background. So we've been able to confirm the cohabitation of aquatic mammals in the area as well, providing further evidence of the richness of the habitat.
All right, I'm going to hand it off to Jesse.
The Haskell wetlands are home to many medicinal plants used by local tribes and by students at Haskell for environmental research. Medicinal plants such as buttonbush and edible plants such as milkweed grow abundantly. And I thought it was pretty cool that we were able to mention milkweed because we held like a community event where the public like came by on the Haskell campus and like we all just like planted like milkweed for like 4 hours. And it was like I think it started at 9 and it was funny because like no one was expecting it to rain or like get cloudy that day. And so it got like to 40, 50 degrees. But like it was really cool how everyone was still like pretty engaged and, helping us plant our milkweed and stuff like that. And yeah.
Thanks. I think what's really great about both of these students' work with these maps is it just shows how rich this ecosystem is. And I think that that's exactly what developers and folks do not want to see. And also just kind of as a testament too to how well the land was stewarded by past generations of Haskell students and the people that lived here. The migratory animals in particular, showing that we have those types of species stopping here are highly valuable when it comes to protecting wetlands. Um, Stephanie.
Yeah, so it probably goes without saying, but the wetlands are covered in fresh water and support a huge variety of aquatic plant and animal species. It makes it one of the most diverse habitats in Kansas. So this map here was made in Python, thanks to our new skills, with data from the USGS StreamStats app. The StreamStats app is incredible. It gives all kinds of information about the drainage basin itself, its characteristics, flow stats, and so on. I've got a link to that app in the story map so you can check it out and put your own point on a stream gauge of your choice and pull up all kinds of data about your own spot. I should also mention here that one of the wonderful things about this project is that we were able to find things like that through connections to outside folks from Haskell. So our friend Kara Phipps at the USGS is the one that told us about this app in particular, which took us up to present day. Before that, we were using fish and wildlife data from the 1980s. I'm from the 1980s. It's really old data. And so I'm really glad to take us up to 2025 here. Gave us so many different connections to outsiders by trying to compile this story map for everyone to use. A couple of shout outs that are things that are on the story map. The Kansas Biological Survey showed us the Kansas flood mapping dashboard. That's a new thing for us. That's linked on there. We also found Kansas Geological Survey's geospatial data portal, which is incredible. There's a plethora of information there that we can use and anyone accessing our story map can find. Kansas Applied Remote Sensing Program offered us the Green Report app, beta app, which produces a weekly map series using satellite data. We didn't know about that before. You'll also see on the story map, there's links to geospatial data sets through KU libraries that we didn't know about. And on those spots, there's all kinds of historical maps. There's historical aerial photos of the Haskell wetlands going back to the 1930s. And then we also included a bunch of links to things that are like national data sets as well, like iNaturalist data, things like that. On the next slide, we wanted to talk just a little bit about why we think this is so important. There has been quite a gap in communication around the wetlands, and we really need to continue to co-develop all of these sorts of efforts so we can join forces and continue to come together to share information. The information exists. There's all kinds of research happening across the wetlands, qualitative, quantitative, all kinds of stuff. And so we really wanted to build a platform where we could share that kind of stuff. Also, I'm thrilled to be able to use these skills in my geography courses at Haskell. I think the real power in this program for me has just been the fact that I now feel comfortable to tinker in Python. Prior to this, I knew absolutely nothing about coding. And so it's wonderful to feel comfortable enough to just like give it a go and share with others, like, hey, it's fine. You're not going to break something. Let's just try. And I think our team was great at doing that together. I've also gained a lot of confidence in how to troubleshoot and not being scared to be stuck or something. And so I think I'm going to do the best I can to bring this into the classroom. And then to the greater community at large too. We're trying to raise all kinds of local awareness about the history of the wetlands, the health, what's happening with climate change, what's happening with migratory animals, and so on. I think Alex has got a couple more tidbits for you.
Yeah, we're almost done, you guys. We are hopeful for potential inclusion in other major Indigenous platforms, including those that we work with the RBCC project around data sovereignty and accessibility. We're also happy to maybe get some cross promotion with the Land Back to the Future documentary project that Brendan McInerney is working on, and I'll call him up in just a second, but that's his warning. And then, of course, supporting additional products. Like there's been a lot of initiatives on the campus recently to update campus signage that talks about the Haskell history and Haskell wetlands history, as well as possibilities around publication and supporting those that could be happening from students and faculty here at Haskell. Hopefully to encourage similar data collection and storage for more general Haskell history, that would be really cool to have something that's online and accessible. And then just calling attention to how important this was that we worked on this project together, because it's a team of students, non-students, native, non-native, and just kind of how we were able to come at this with the ideas around what would be useful to people at different stages in their education and careers. So I think that was really powerful that we collaborated too. But I'm going to call upon Brendan if you'd like to speak a word or two about your documentary film.
Thank you so much, Alex. I'm here with my daughter, May. um, yeah, Land Back to the Future is a short documentary film about the relationship that Native peoples have had with the Haskell wetlands since time immemorial. And it demonstrates the continuation of that legacy through the work of people like Sean, Jesse, Stephanie, and Alex. And it's a great honor to be able to help tell this story. And this film will work in conjunction with the work that this team is doing to help raise awareness about the wetlands in Lawrence. Thank you.
Thanks, Brendan. We will open it up for questions, but I just wanted to share a little bit about us right here, where we come from. And just again, thank you so much for this opportunity to hear your presentations as well. Those were super powerful. And I'm just so proud that this kind of work is happening and really grateful to be involved. But again, an overview, we wanted to create some baseline data that was in coordination with current research happening at the Haskell campus. And we worked with instructors and other students here to kind of identify what gaps there were. And we found that we needed some more baseline data, some maps, the story map that consolidates everything and is accessible, centralized information with updates since the highway was constructed. And so I think that we did what we set out to do. So I'm proud of that as well.
Woo! Give it up for Haskell. If you could give a round of applause or a heart emoji or whatever you're feeling, that was amazing. Got time for a couple questions for Haskell. Um, you are getting some great comments in the chat. If anybody has a question, please feel free to turn on your mic. I don't want to hog all the questions, but one question I had, Jesse, you put that map up that had the kind of boundary of campus and the highway, and it looked like there were little um, point data for each of those little plant species that you pulled up. And I guess my question was, how did you collect that data for the plant species location? Yeah, this thing.
Oh, okay. So with those little points and all that, I think we barely mentioned her, but Courtney King, um, this is a part of her like restoration like data with the Haskell wetlands and all that. And so this is like her own individual work that we were able to program into the story map. And so all these little dots are like indications of where she like, reintroduced or even like found like these species like within the wetlands.
That's awesome. We're getting some feedback on Courtney in the chat too. Rob knows Courtney. I feel like Courtney might have just taken our short course. We had somebody named Courtney King anyway. Um, Jennifer's got a question about, do you think they will have any public influence on public perceptions about development in the future?
Oh yeah. So I grew up in Lawrence my whole life. My grandma went to Haskell and I went to Haskell. Um, there is this perception of Haskell and maybe generally tribal colleges and universities as being less capable. There's that paternalistic attitude that remains from the boarding school era, and this idea that we can't steward our own information and that we're not organized and we don't have it together. And so I think by having products like this, it does show the public, like, no, we appreciate the habitats that we're working with and collecting medicinal plants from and doing research on. We appreciate them. We care. We think it's important and it deserves respect enough to even be organized like this. So I know it's a little bit more of a philosophical answer to that question, but I just think, yeah, just having grown up here, just the difference between how KU is treated versus Haskell, having gone to both, University of Kansas, it's just, I think it's a big deal to show that we can, that we care. And one of the maps that we showed, I'll just pull it up again. Sorry, sorry, I really care about this. Now that we're talking about it, the difference here. So all of this land that's in this square right here, I don't know if you guys can see my mouse, but that used to be Haskell's land. And so did all of this land right here and part of these neighborhoods around us, but slowly was taken for public use because they believed that other people could do better or use that land. And so became a public school and a public park, became the land of other universities like KU or Baker University and stuff. And so by showing that we're actively researching, that we're caretaking, and that we're sharing about this information, publishing about it, and involved in programs like this, can change the public perception, like locally in Lawrence, but also nationally about TCUs.
Wow. Yeah, thank you, Alex, for that answer. I'm just looking to see if there's any other questions in the chat. Okay, that is a different Courtney King. Thank you.
Hey Nate, this is James Rowlandleaf.
Go for it.
Yeah, I asked a question about is the campus on tribal trust land?
Okay. I know this and I don't at the moment. I think it is. No, I don't think it is. If anybody else knows better than me, please speak up. But I feel like this has come up before.
I don't think it's trust land. I think
That's
it's all his
reservation.
government.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. It is not. The interesting thing about Haskell is it's actually on thrice or three times stolen land. So, so there is that history. Yeah. At one point, it kind of was when it was reservation land.
Well, can I ask a follow-up then? I think that was a great presentation. I'm James Rowlandleaf, and I'm a friend of Haskell Nation for many years, and my good friend Dan Wildcat. And it seems to me that, part of the wetlands strategy should be a land back strategy. And I was sort of wondering how university and activists and people like Dan Wildcat have been pushing for a sort of a land back process so that Haskell can be on whatever designation that may be, whether through through a land stewardship effort or through like a land conservancy organization, or in some ways that way, then maybe it would give you a better chance of protecting that wetlands going forward indefinitely. So that's why I asked the question, is there any thinking around effort to bring the campus and the wetland into some kind of a tribal stewardship or ownership or co-management?
Oh, they're definitely, in terms of the land even becoming separated from Haskell, or how Haskell was fractioned out originally, was for public use and education and for environmental preservation. And so the fact that these other institutions that were awarded this land for those purposes have stopped utilizing those fully in those purposes has been a major point of contention. Haskell, wondering like, okay, you're not going to use it the way you said. We want to use it that way. Can we, stop this relationship or stop this agreement? And so there's definitely been movements in that direction. And I think the idea that Baker University, to be specific, was going to work with Haskell to create public education opportunities for the local schools and colleges, also at the college level, to do research. The literal, that trafficway, that highway, is like the thicker boundary between, and it has created that extra distance of those of Haskell and Baker actually working together to take care of these lands and to provide open access to both groups of students to do research there. I'll definitely leave it up for other people to answer. I know we've gone a little over time as well. But yeah, land back is definitely a conversation.
James, thank you for the question and for joining us. And I just want to say too, having had the opportunity to visit Haskell's campus a couple of years ago for a workshop with Jennifer and some other folks from ESIIL, hearing this story about the wetlands and about the highway didn't really come up when we were there a couple of years ago, although it was happening. It just gives me a whole new perspective anyway, and so I really appreciate hearing it from you all, and I hope to get back there someday. And best of luck with everything. Thank you so much, Haskell, for the map and all of your hard work and for being a part of the community. And we look forward to